The
Hi, this
views
is
and
Derek
opinions
Peterson, and
provided
you are
on this
listening
show
to the
are for
Passive
informational
Investor Show.
purposes only and should not be misinterpreted as an offer to buy or sell any securities or to make or consider any investment or course of action. For more information, please go to passiveinvestorshow.com. Hey PI listeners, this is John Fortes. I'm making it a point to speak to as many investors as possible. My goal is to position myself to be a blessing to my network through conversation. How could one be a blessing through conversation? The easy answer is by listening. A simple conversation can open many opportunities and doors. I always ask myself this: what do I have to lose by having one more conversation? Going back to high school, I've connected friends and family in my network to one another, even if it didn't benefit me. And I continue those same principles and practices. Why? Because it's the right thing to do. If I can't help you, I probably know someone or something that can probably solve your problem. I'd love for you to become a part of that network. Go to www.johnfortes.com, create your investor profile, and schedule a call. How can I best serve you through conversation? In the words of Clarence the Angel from It's a Wonderful Life, no man is a failure who has friends.
And now, the Passive Investor Show. Here's your host, John Fortes.
Welcome, PI listeners, to the Passive Investor Show. I'm the Passive Investor Consultant, John Fortes, your host of the only ranked podcast for passive investors in multifamily syndications and real estate funds. Our goal and purpose of this show is to be a resource to investors and help them master their passive investments by beating inflation 1% at a time. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We have another episode of the Passive Investor Show, and this time we're going to focus on the marketing aspect of it. My guest today is Derek Peterson. Derek Peterson is the CEO of Adapt Media Agency, a full-scale digital marketing agency based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Adapt Media Agency works with a variety of small, medium, and large businesses with focus on real estate investment firms like ours and developing strategies to help them grow their influence and establish trust and ultimately secure investment dollars. Derek, welcome to the show, man. It's great to have you, and I'm excited for you here, man.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, man.
Hey, let's talk about your background and how you got into like the media side of things.
Yeah, so it's interesting how you end up where you are in your career. I didn't actually start in marketing, though I started in sales. And I was thinking this morning that I actually have a degree in sales and marketing from college. That was actually my degree. I wasn't the greatest student, and I can't attribute any of that to the classes that I showed up to or did not show up to in college. If my mom's listening, sorry. So I started actually in sales. I work for a payroll company. So sales and marketing are somewhat synonymous. I worked for a company called ADP for about 7 years, right out of college, cutting my teeth, knocking on doors, getting doors slammed in my face, and understanding the tenets of trying to get the attention and the trust of another individual, which is what marketing really is. From there, I transitioned into the natural pathway for somebody who works for a company like that into medical device sales. Spent a number of years, about 10 years, working for large corporations, wore a bunch of different hats, started to understand business, all aspects of business, made my mistakes, learned a ton from a number of great mentors, and decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to try to go do this myself. So I exited and started my own medical distribution company. I actually had 2 of them that I owned over the course of about 5-6 years. And what I came to learn was that while I enjoyed the medical space, what I enjoyed most about owning a business was marketing the business. So I assumed that role within the company as I brought other people on. And, over time, as you age, as you grow older, you start to have an appreciation for, hey, I've only got so much time on this rock, and I want my day-to-day life, what I do, my job, to be something that I'm passionate about and something that doesn't feel like work. And for me, it's always been working with other entrepreneurs, working with other businesses, and helping people get their message out. That sales and marketing aspect. So I decided to sell those businesses, exit, and start a marketing firm and really just sort of chase my passion. So, from there, we started a data media agency, and it's been a dream. I mean, I wake up every morning and it doesn't feel like work. I truly enjoy what I do. I truly enjoy the science and the art of getting people's attention, developing trust, and helping other business owners take their products and their services and deploying the same things. That's how I got into it. So here I stand today, owning a marketing firm. Who knew this is where the roads would lead? But eventually, we find our path.
Eventually, you and I connected through a mutual colleague, Whitney Sewell,
Mhm.
who now let's jump into exactly what you do. You design websites and you also do like social media campaigns for your clients as well, right?
Correct. Yeah, we're I guess you would label us as a full scale digital marketing agency. So from that perspective, anything that's digitally related, we don't do print. So we're not making flyers or posters or billboards, but anything as it relates to developing your digital reputation online, from building your website to your branding and getting everything necessary to get people to flow to you so that you can sell your product and generate more leads. We do that. So that may be aspects of, like you said, web development, social media, helping with podcasting, a number of things to sort of draw traffic to people's site to help them achieve their ultimate goal. And we did that. We started with Whitney. Whitney was a client. And I believe that is how we met, right? It was through Whitney.
Absolutely.
We developed his site, had the opportunity to speak on his podcast as well. And we did quite a bit of work for Whitney and some of his other clients that are in the real estate syndication space, quite a few. So we've developed quite a niche and a knackering for that space.
So when we got introduced, my website looked completely different from what it looks like today. And when we got on that first call, and let me just kind of set up the time frame of when that happened. It was right before COVID really officially started hitting. I believe it was February. I put everything on pause to kind of rebrand, and you helped me with that because the minute you looked at my website, you said, John, this is completely just a podcast. You are more than that. And you helped me see the vision of how I wanted to be front facing with clients. Now, I say that because what is something someone has to be aware of when they're looking to develop their investment firm? And what are the important things that they should have on their website?
Great question. So I do recall having those conversations with you, and yeah, just to use you as context for, we'll call it maybe the top 5 things that someone should consider when they're developing their site in the investment space. And this really, this crosses, all businesses. It's really it's the same. So number one, and I'm going to again use you as context, is having a clear purpose, right? So your website needs to have a clear purpose on what it's trying to do. So when I looked at your website, the clear purpose that resonated from what was developed was, I have a podcast. And I said, John, is this all you do? You just run a podcast and that's it? This is your moneymaker? And you're like, no, I'm a real estate syndicator. I go, I have no idea that's what you do. So we needed to make that respective change. And then from there, probably point down to point number 2, which is knowing clearly who your audience is, right? So, your audience before was podcast listeners with that website. Your audience now is those interested in investing in passive income opportunities in the real estate multifamily space. So it is very, very important for those who are developing a site and those who are really developing, anything around their marketing plan, that they clearly know who their audience is. We'll often reference, who is your customer avatar? Who is your typical person? They're a male, they're 55 years old, and they're looking for passive income streams. That's just an example. And it could be very different, depending on the investment opportunities that the syndicator is working on. But knowing clearly who your audience is. A website, this is something a lot of people, when they go to develop a website, the point number 3 is they want to make it look pretty, right? They think, hey, as long as this looks nice, people are going to buy my stuff. People are going to invest with me, for example. That's actually not the case. Making it look good is your second purpose. The number 1 thing you should be doing is making sure that it navigates and is designed to convert, right? A website is designed to do something. It's not designed to look pretty. A painting, a picture, a photo, that's intended to be pretty. A website is designed to do something, and it's get to somebody to take a call to action. A CTA, we call it in our world. We get tons of acronyms. So that call to action for you is to get them to book an appointment with you or get them to invest with you. And for all syndicators, it's to grab their attention. Point number 4, really, really important, especially in your space. You very often in the real estate syndication space, people are using this thought leadership platform in order to develop trust with the customer, right? So trust is the thing that everyone is selling. Whether I'm a plumber, whether I'm a grocery store, a mini mart, or whether I'm a real estate syndicator, I'm not selling an investment property. I'm selling that John has found a good opportunity that's going to yield me a return, that I trust you that you're going to do that. And the way to get that to happen through your digital landscape and what you create is by having quality content. So great video, great pictures, words are spelled correctly, content is on point, right? There's no better way to be able to grab someone's attention by providing them value through quality content, because that's what we consume as an individual visiting your site. And that's how I start to develop trust with you. I get to know you, I get to like you, and I get to trust you, which is the ultimate goal. Point number 5, and the last one, and I've got 100 more, but for time's sake, we'll stick with 5. It needs to be SEO friendly, right? So, and you know this, John, we talked about this. Search engine optimization it's a topic we could talk about for hours. But if you have a website and you have all roads lead to Rome type of mentality, like your website is your hook, that's your digital storefront. If people can't find you, what's the point, right? It's like opening up a Target and putting it in the middle of the jungle where nobody can find it. No one can find it. I mean, people put these stores on, throughways and areas so people can see it. As traffic goes by, they can see it. Web traffic's no different. As traffic goes by looking for something, I can find you. It needs to be SEO friendly. So that is for your folks looking to develop sites. Those are kind of 5 quick little hits, top hits on things they really need to be considering as they start to develop their digital landscape.
Thanks for sharing that. And I know we focus on the passive investor experience, but this is an experience that the passive investors, they experience. They go to websites, they vet the sponsors that way, they check you out, they do the Google searches, they start to see if you're an actual real person. Now, for the investment firms that are listening, because I have a lot of friends out there that are listening as well, this is very important for how you present yourself to those investors as well. Now, I wanted to back up real quick because something caught my eye as we're rolling you out and introducing you to the audience. You focus on real estate investment firms. Was that a key strategy for you because you saw a lack and a need for it in the industry? Or was it just kind of like something you just kind of threw out there, threw a dart on the board and said, real estate investment firms, let's go after them?
It's sort of a 2-pronged answer to that. First, I've always had an interest as somebody who invests in real estate myself in this space. So very similar to, like, my wife owns a travel agency. She didn't. She was a dental hygienist, but we had a desire to travel more. I said, well, open a business doing travel. I said, and you're just going to learn about it. You know what I mean? We're just going to be engulfed in that industry. So very similarly, I started to seek out individuals in the real estate syndication space because I wanted to personally learn more about it, be more invested in it, and be put in front of individuals like yourself, the Whitney Stools, the Reliant Investments of the world to just get exposure to it. And as far as what it is that they do, I need to be nearly an expert on a business in order for me to be able to help you sell it, right? So I can't market something if I don't know what it is and how it functions. So that was honestly the real reason, was just to improve for my own personal reasons in that space.
I was literally interested in knowing why. So that's kind of why I just threw that out there.
Yeah.
Now, to get back on track, how do firms attract visitors to their websites?
So there's a number of different ways to get people to find you, right? So, and finding you is one thing. And another thing is getting them to know you, like you, and trust you. And in that entire process, there's a number of different pathways that you can go. But specifically for the investor space, what's been proven to work very, very well is the idea of this thought leadership platform. And it's not just in the investment space, it's in a lot of spaces, right? If you're selling a product or a service that requires a good bit of income, I need to have a great deal of trust with you. And in order to do that, I really need to trust that you know what you're talking about and that you know what you're doing. And that I need to see you as a leader. I need to see you as somebody who's an expert in this field. And the idea of a thought leadership platform is really what can spearhead that process. So, what is the thought leadership platform? It's multifaceted. It's something we can talk about for hours, but at the highest level, it's basically creating a way for your voice to be heard, right? So, we saw probably one of the first individuals to really master this process in your space is Joe Fairless. I know he was somebody that was started this idea of just podcasting and getting his knowledge out. And what we find is that with these thought leadership platforms, whether it's a podcast, a YouTube show, really good blog, or all of the above, when you start writing and speaking about what you know about, you are deemed an expert. There's no certification that says I'm an expert, right? You're an expert just because people feel you are. And one of the greatest ways to get it out there is to write a book, have a podcast, just talk about your craft and do it consistently over and over and over and over again, and deliver value to those individuals. Now, there are a number of great individuals who have followed in those footsteps in the investor syndication space. Guys like Whitney that has his podcast, and you've put this podcast out. You've delivered tremendous content to not only the syndicators but also the investors. So you're starting to, or you continue to deliver great value, and people naturally are going to gravitate towards you because you know what you're talking about, and that's a very, very, very important part of the development of trust. There was actually a study done, and I'll just kind of wrap this point, that was done at Harvard, where they took a number of pictures, 20 pictures of women, just their faces. And they took a group of men and women of all different ages and demographics, and they had them look at pictures of these women that were flashed in front of their face. And then they were asked to rate who is the most in the top 3 most attractive women based off just their face. And the men and the women gave the same answers, almost identical. And the reason for that, it wasn't because, they all kind of looked the same. That was what was interesting about it. But the difference was the people's faces that was flashed in front of their face the most often was who they picked. So the point in saying that is that when you're out there, when you're talking, you're continually delivering value, and you're continually seen, people just develop an affinity and a trust to you. So when we start to develop a leadership platform, we help to deploy those voices through different mediums, and then retarget individuals through a marketing process, so that you're continually in front of the customer. So constant emails, communications, text, and a variety of other methods that we do to help get them out there, get them known. But the key is just being in their face. Honestly, that's it.
To go back, I never thought or consider myself a thought leader. I started this, and I said it many times on the podcast. If something ever was to happen to me, my kids have something to go hear my voice, right? So my cool. Kids, they're 10 and 6, and that's kind of the main focus that drives me to stay consistent with it. I know I love talking about it, so this is a way for me to channel that out there as a part that I could just have this conversation, and I know that energy is out there, instead of having it with, maybe my wife who's had it millions times over. So yeah. It allows me that release to just put it out there, but it's centered on my kids to stay consistent, to release those constant episodes. So back on the marketing aspect, I know you said constantly being in front of the customer. What are some of the biggest no-nos you see on websites today? And you could use mine as a reference to when you took it over.
Okay. So yours wasn't that you had a lot of no-nos. It was just very partitioned to just one aspect of your business. But I'd say there's probably 3 to 4 big no-nos and when I say no-nos, these are the most common mistakes that people will make, because we do a lot of website redevelopment. So especially during COVID, our phone was exploding because everyone had nothing to do while they're on lockdown. So they finally looked at the website and said, man, this really stinks. It's time for me to turn it up a notch. So I'd say probably the number one biggest mistake that people make, it's too confusing. There's too much. And what I mean by that, there's too much going on. There's too many things. They're trying to sell too many products. They're trying to do too many things at once. And it's confusing. As humans and with human nature, we are incredibly impatient beings, right? As marketers, we understand that. We know that we're not going to change human nature, unfortunately. So what we need to do is we need to cater to it. So we need to make it very, very simple. People have the tendency to put too much on a website to intimate value, but what they end up doing is making it too confusing. And when you make it too confusing, people get stressed and they get impatient. And when they get impatient, they leave and they leave your website. So if we make it simple, we make it to the point, we don't get too cute with the words or the name of your business. It says what it does and it's just boom, there it is. Then that gets to the point and it's not confusing. If I'm going to open up a retail store and I'm trying to sell sneakers, yet when you walk through the door, I have to walk around all this maze in order to get to the sneakers. I'm not going to buy your sneakers. I'm like, say the heck with this. I'm out, right? Too confusing is one. Second, terrible call to action. So what I mean by that is there's really no clear direction on how to get started, right? So a lot of people may come to your site, they're interested, they're ready to roll, but how do I get in contact with you? It's amazing to me the amount of sites that we see that don't have enough buttons and enough calls to action. It's a very simple fix in order to get people to reach out to you and to make that process of reaching out to you, again, based off the first point, simple. Probably the third mistake would be it's not attention grabbing, right? So we talked about the way it looks. That's important, right? So we developed a structure with calls to action, tell your story, make it simple. Then we make it look nice. If it's ugly, it's the way of the world. People, it just loses credibility, right? If I have ugly looking images, if they're pixelated, if the video quality is not good, people are going to assume you're just not a solid business. And it may not be the case. I see a lot of amazing businesses that have terrible websites. And I see a lot of terrible businesses that have amazing websites and they do more business. And you really have about 3 to 5 seconds to catch someone's attention when they go to a website. And honestly, probably the last two would be it's too slow. So you load the site up too much, so it takes too long to load. People leave again. And then one that a lot of people forget. I actually just found one the other day on my own website, or should I say a customer found, you have typos. Seems simple, but there's no better way to lose credibility than to put up a website and you spelled something wrong. Like if you drove by a billboard and it was spelled wrong, you'd be like, I'm not calling them, right? I mean, it's just instant credibility lost. So
you know what though? It's good. It's probably a good thing that the customer found it, right?
Oh yeah.
Even though
Yes.
even though it doesn't look good on you, they were on that particular page, really diving into what you're doing, what you were saying.
Yeah.
So maybe by design, that might be a strategy for someone going forward, which I wouldn't probably recommend. But hey, man, if someone's spotting a typo, maybe you offer like a free something.
Yeah, that's true. That's
You
not a
know what I
bad
mean?
idea,
So,
actually, yeah.
I mean, it's always different type of strategies people are doing. And I appreciate you sharing all of that. Derek, I want to ask you one more question before we ask some closing questions is, can you explain to us, I know this because I've been through the process with you, but what is your process when you're bringing on a new client that's looking to design their website? How is that setup process work for you and a new client?
So our process is real simple. First, assuming we've had a conversation with the customer, right? We've sat, we've identified their needs, we understand what they're looking for, whether it be web development, full branding, full thought leadership platform development, whatever the case may be. I'm a big fan of simplicity. We send them 3 emails, and those 3 emails initiate a process for us that has automation to it and has structure to it. And those 3 emails, honestly, are pretty simple. We send them an intake form, which is just a client intake form where we ask them a series of questions that's been baked and tried and true and changed over time so that we get a real good understanding of the business at a deeper level, above and beyond what I may have had via conversation with you as a client. And it just puts it on record, right? It's an online form, pretty straightforward. Second thing is we connect them, our clients, with a CRM that we use. You've used it, you're familiar with it. We use a CRM to manage the conversations with our clients. So rather than using Dropbox, email, text message, where all your information's all over the place, we almost have like an internal Facebook where all the conversations between key team leaders on our team, myself and you, are all in one place. All assets are uploaded, downloaded in one place. It keeps it nice and organized, and it allows us to provide the client a timeline so they know exactly where they are in the process.
That was Monday, right?
Yes, Monday.com is what we use. It's great, very malleable CRM service that exists out there. And the last one is we send them an invoice to get started. Naturally, we got to run a business and get paid, so we send them an invoice, and then we get started. So it's we have a great communication tool, and we really get to understand the client. And those are probably the two most important things when you start with somebody.
That's awesome to hear. It's similar to basically the way we go about it. When people come by our website, it's the intake form that you have, and then they'll set up the call, but you do the call first, right?
Yeah, I try to do the call first because while we have a heavy focus on the investment syndication business from our client base, we do work with other customers as well outside of that. And what we pride ourselves in is not putting somebody in a box, meaning that we just have a program that everyone goes through and it's very generic and it yields the same result, because that you divorce yourself of any creativity or deep thought as it relates to that client. So I've always wanted to create a firm where every person is a different individual case, right? So when we sat with you, I didn't put you in a box. I said, let's look at your website. What are we working with here? And we made some decisions and choices and took the respective action thereafter. And that has to start with a phone call. I'm a big believer in automators and all that, but I'm a little old school too. Let's pick up the phone and let's just talk it out. So yeah. Phone calls.
And that's
huge.
what we did, and that's what worked. It really helped me see the vision when we were breaking it down as we were looking at the website in real time. So I hope that helps others on their investment firm building journey as well.
Absolutely.
Hey, Derek, what's one piece of advice for the PI listeners?
For the PI listeners, one piece of advice as it relates to marketing?
Absolutely.
I would say, as it relates to marketing, I'd say, no matter what your asset is that you're trying to promote, the funds that you're trying to raise, the number one thing that you can be doing as a business is creating your digital platform, creating your mouthpiece, right? How are you getting out there? Because when you create a digital landscape, it just opens the door up to so many other individuals that could then invest in your investments, versus dealing with just your narrow little market or your email list that you have. When you create a thought leadership platform, and when you create something that has bigger fingers and reach, and creating a true digital presence, then that's what really spreads your wings to grow your business.
Thank you for sharing, Derek. How can we stay in touch with you?
All right, so a couple ways. Actually, if they just go to the bottom of your website, you'll see a section that says website proudly created by Adapt Media Agency. Just click it and you'll go to our website. But our website is just that. It's adaptmediaagency.com. You can find us there. You can find us on Facebook at Adapt Media Agency as well. Or you can just email me directly, Derek, DEREK, at adaptmediaagency.com. Or just call you and you give them my number. That'd be the other way.
That'll definitely work too. Derek, my favorite question of all time here is, what is the meaning behind your company name?
Great question. So about 3 years ago, 2-3 years ago, I became very, very interested in the field of personal growth and self-development. Actually about 5 years ago. And I got to the point where I actually wanted to create my own podcast and start to bring guests on to help people through the process of change. I became fascinated with the one thing that people need to accept the most, but it's the one thing that that human beings most resist, and that's change. And that can be personal change. It could be change in your business. So the word adapt became very interesting to me. So I actually bought a domain name called adaptu.com. And I started a podcast called the Adapt You Podcast, where I've had athletes, professionals, a lot of awesome people that have been through struggle and change, providing that wisdom out there. And I haven't given that show the time and attention that I would like, because I'm trying to run this business. It was more of a hobby. It wasn't a moneymaker. But then I decided, as I delved more into change and changing business, the word adapt seemed to make sense. If you look at the logo, it's an A, but it's also a Y, which was for adapt you. But the big A just became something that was synonymous with change for me, and decided to just slap the word on the front of media agency. And that's how the name was born.
Man, thank you for sharing. I love hearing how companies got their name, whether it's their personal name or anything, it still has some sort of meaning and value. Derek, thank you for coming on the show today, man. Really appreciate you.
No, thanks for having me, John. I really appreciate it, man.
Don't forget to download your free copy of the investment tracker. It allows you to track up to 5 investments, compare sponsors, markets, and most importantly, projected versus actual returns. To get your copy, go to www.projectedreturns.com. PI listeners, thank you for listening. As always, we hope this was the best resource for your investment strategy, but also the best use of your time. Remember, if this episode helps you, you can help us by leaving a review on iTunes. I hope you feel compelled enough to share it with someone you think this would resonate with as well. As much as it pains us to leave you, but you know what time it is. Time to go put this into practice. Till the next time we meet, happy investing. PI listeners, I'm grateful for your time and I appreciate you for listening. It would mean the world to me if you went to iTunes and left a rating and written review. Let me know how you feel about the show. It really makes a big difference with getting the podcast out there. Don't forget about our Facebook group, where all of our guests are members of. I'll be there to answer any of your questions, or even questions you might have for future guests. Subscribe so you can get the latest episodes and our fan favorite quick hitters. Finally, I want to keep you updated, so head over to johnfortes.com and sign up for the newsletter. If you're interested in partnering with me, sign up on the contact page so you can talk to me directly. I look forward to connecting with you. Happy investing.